we are discussing free or natural convection and the governing equations for the applicable in the boundary layer of the free convection or natural convection case were presented, and the x momentum equation, which is the most important and slightly different one from external flow, is or was presented, and then it was non-dimensionalized. You can see how it looks like when it is non-dimensionalized. The first one, 9.10, is the non-dimensionalized x momentum equation. We are talking about a flow or the hot plate put in a vertical orientation in a quiescent media, and here the vertical direction is taken as x direction. So the x momentum equation in non-dimensionalized form and the energy equation are shown by equations 9.10 and 9.11. And you can see the presence of the Reynolds number and Prandtl number in these equations. And the first term on the right hand side of the x momentum equation is modified by defining the velocity in a particular, or defining velocity or reference velocity in a particular way. So if that u square is taken as g beta ts minus t infinity into L. So in that case, the multiple of the t star in the equation 9.10 will become unity. And the Reynolds number in that case would become g beta ts minus t infinity L cube upon nu square. Nu is the kinematic viscosity, and the whole thing raised to 1/2. So this square of Reynolds number is Reynolds number in this case. You cannot say in general that square of Reynolds number is Grashof number. As applicable in natural convection case, square of Reynolds number is presented or redefined as another number, another non-dimensionalized number, and that is called Grashof number. So Grashof number is g beta ts minus t infinity into L cube raised to nu square. Or the Reynolds number would be Grashof number raised to 1/2, as in case of natural convection. And it is seen that, and also from the understanding of the physics of the phenomena, one can say that Nusselt number should be function of Grashof number and Prandtl number. So you can expect that again here, only for a very simplified case, it may be possible to have analytical solution to the equations, governing equations, but the equations are again strongly coupled with one another, the x momentum equation and the energy equation. So the empirical correlation, you can expect that when you want to get Nusselt number, it will be expressed as some function of Grashof number and Prandtl number. So later on, as you will see, Nusselt number correlations, the empirical correlations are available as a function of Grashof number and Prandtl number. And actually, multiplication of Grashof number and Prandtl number is defined as a new number called Rayleigh number. So Nusselt number becomes a function of Rayleigh number. Now, in nature, or what happens in reality, you don't have the watertight compartments. Like a particular case may be defined or may be explained, or the phenomena may be categorized as the free convection or natural convection. In another case, it may be put into the category of forced convection. But there are possibilities when both of them are playing some role, right? And both of them are helping to helping for the heat transfer phenomena. Or it may be happening that one of them is more dominant and the other one is not contributing much, or even opposing that. So all such kind of combinations are possible. But in this undergraduate course, we are not going to talk about combined forced and free convection. But one should bear in mind that in real life, there are all chances that these two these two different types of convection may occur simultaneously. So in that case, if your ratio of Grashof number to square of Reynolds number, if it is much less than 1, then you can say that mainly in that case, you can say that the free convection effects may be neglected, right? So this square of Reynolds number is much higher than Grashof number. So in that case, you can say that free convection effects may be neglected or forced convection is dominant. And the opposite case may be where Grashof number upon square of Reynolds number is much higher than 1. It means that Reynolds number is much smaller as compared to the Grashof number. So in that case, you may consider it to be a case of free convection, and forced convection effects may be neglected. But whenever you have something in between, say Grashof number to Reynolds number square, that ratio is near 1, then you have to consider the effect of both of them. Now, both of them may be helping each other and giving you higher heat transfer coefficient, or one may be opposing the other, and maybe like you have to subtract the effect of one from the other. So all those possibilities are there, but we are going to take only purely free convection cases in this chapter. And the discussion starts with laminar free convection on a vertical surface. And here there is a derivation at the end of which it is shown that the average value of Nusselt number, which is nothing but HL by K, is 4 by 3 of Grashof number is to 1 by 4 divided by 4, and some function of Prandtl number. Okay. Or basically the average value of Nusselt number is 4 by 3 of the value of Nusselt number at L. Value of Nusselt number at L. We are talking about a plate whose height is L. So if you find out the Nusselt number at x equal to L, and then if you when you multiply it by 4 by 3, you get the average Nusselt number throughout the height of the plate. And then once you get the average Nusselt number, you can get the average heat transfer coefficient and multiply it with the area and the temperature difference, and you get the heat transfer rate. Okay. So how it is derived, we are not going into that. We are just going to accept that the average Nusselt number in case of laminar free convection over a vertical plate is 4 by 3 of the Nusselt number at x equal to L. Now we talked about the laminar flow, but again there could be transition as it is shown in the figure here. Initially the flow would be laminar, and then at some critical height xc, there will be transition from laminar to turbulent flow. So because the heat transfer and the momentum transfer phenomena are quite different in laminar flow and turbulent flow, you can expect that the correlations that are available for laminar flow and turbulent flow could be different, though both of them would be function of Rayleigh number, and again the criteria is also in form of Rayleigh number. So generally at Rayleigh number. Now Rayleigh number is nothing but Grashof number into Prandtl number. So when the Rayleigh number is around 10 raised to 9, there it is seen that there is a transition from laminar to turbulent flow. So to check what is the Rayleigh number in a given case, whether it exceeds 10 raised to 9, if it exceeds 10 raised to 9, you have to consider the case to be a turbulent one. And in case it is less than that, it is a laminar, and the correlation could be different for the different cases. So here it is written, the Rayleigh number is nothing but the Grashof number into Prandtl number. Okay, so when you multiply the Prandtl number with the Grashof number, this is what you get. If you are talking about the Rayleigh number at x equal to x, then there will be x cube here. If you are talking about Rayleigh number at x equal to L, then you will have L cube in the formula. So there is one example for a vertical plate given here. You can go through this example. So there is a vertical plate with 0.25 meter length, and the temperature is maintained at 70, and it is there in quiescent media, which is air, at 25 degrees Celsius. Find the boundary layer thickness and how it compares with the thickness if air were flowing over the plate at free stream velocity of 5 meter per second. Okay. So properties are taken from the table at the average mean film temperature, then the Grashof number is found. And Rayleigh number is found, and the thickness of the boundary layer for laminar flow, right? Here you can see Rayleigh number is less than 10 raised to 9, so it's laminar flow. So thickness of the boundary layer can be given with this formula. Okay, so you can get it with this formula, and the Reynolds number with this velocity of 5 meter per second is found. And in case of external flow force convection, you know that it is 5x upon the Reynolds number raised to 1/2, right? So at x equal to L, it will be 0.0047, right? So it's much less in case of external flow as compared to the in case of force convection as compared to the free convection. The thickness of the boundary layer would be much less in case of force convection. So some correlations for external free convection over a vertical flat plate will be presented here, and they are generally seen as C into some constant into Reynolds number raised to some exponent of Reynolds number. So for different ranges of Reynolds number, the value of C and N could be different. So for a vertical plate, for laminar flow, starting from Rayleigh number equal to 10 raised to 4 to 10 raised to 9, this C, the constant, the multiplier of Rayleigh number, not Reynolds number, is 0.59 and N equal to 1/4. And for Prandtl number, for Rayleigh number 10 raised to 9 to 10 raised to 13, where the flow is turbulent, C is may be taken as 0.1 and N equal to 1/3. Okay. There is a more general correlation for the whole range of Rayleigh number presented or recommended by Churchill and Chu. So that's average Nusselt number is equal to 0.825 plus 0.387 Rayleigh number at L, x equal to L, raised to 1/6, 1 plus 0.492 upon Prandtl number raised to 9/16 and whole bracket raised to 8/27 and square of the whole thing. So this is applicable for this 9.26 is applicable to laminar as well as turbulent flow. But if you want to have more accurate correlation for laminar part, then you can use another one, which is shown as equation 9.27. So this is about the free convection over a vertical flat plate. Now, what if the geometry is different? Let's say you are talking about a vertical cylinder. You perform an experiment perhaps in the lab where in the setup the object is a cylinder and you are hitting the cylinder and it is put in a closed compartment, and you have it is like front part is also closed with the help of a glass sheet or plastic sheet. The glass sheet or plastic sheet is just for because it is transparent, you are able to see the setup. So in that case, the vertical cylinder, whether you can, if you want to get, like you are going to take some readings and get the heat transfer rate. Basically, the heat transfer rate should be equal to the amount of electrical power that you supply, right? Because when it is in steady state, it has like whatever storage had to happen has already happened. So whatever is the incoming energy is dissipated in the form of heat there. So you can get the total heat transfer rate. And if you want to check whether what is proposed by some empirical correlation, whether your actual result match with that or not. So in that case, you may evaluate, you may find the heat transfer coefficient with the help of the correlations. Now the correlations which were given earlier were actually for the flat plate. But if your D by L is greater than or equal to 35 upon Grashof number is to 1 by 4, then you can apply those correlations for the cylinder also. Okay. Basically, the cylinder diameter should not be too small as compared to the length. Right? That is what is concern here. That is, the curvature should not be very steep curvature. If it is not steep, in that case, those correlations can also be used. The correlations for vertical flat plate may be applied to vertical cylinders also with this condition. Okay. And then one example is given. Okay, we are going to have an example which could be somewhat similar to this one. So this is a solved example. You can go through it. I'm not going into it. And in this case, as you can see, the heat transfer coefficient is found, and then the Q value is found, which comes out to be 1060 watts. Right now, they have also evaluated what is the heat transfer rate by mode of radiation, assuming certain emissivity and the area you can calculate, and the Stefan-Boltzmann constant, and the two temperatures, the temperature of the surface and the surroundings. Now what is found is actually the heat transfer rate or heat dissipation rate because of radiation is higher than what you get from the free convection. So you have to be very vigilant when you are dealing with the natural convection case, because the convection coefficients in natural convection are very, very small. As you can see even here, H equal to 7 watts. So it's not even in double digits. So this is a very poor mode of heat transfer. The heat transfer coefficients could be very small, and because of that, as compared to that, even the radiation may be more important, as you can see here. Right. So if you neglect radiation here, you will draw wrong conclusions. You will say that H value is you will end up showing H value much higher than what actually it is. Okay, so in such cases, you have to also check about the effect of the radiation. So higher the temperature of the surface, more the effect of radiation, right? It's playing more and more important role because Q convection is going to be small for a given temperature difference because of small value of H. Okay. So before talking about inclined and horizontal plates, let's solve an example. So this example is actually very much similar to one that we solved for external flow. If you can recall, there was a cylinder and or rather there was a we talked about a pipe of carrying steam having certain surface temperature, external surface temperature, and it was put in some open space and the wind flew or wind flows over that at certain velocity, and that was the case of cylinder in cross flow, right? External flow, force convection, cylinder in cross flow. And in that case, we found how much is the heat dissipation rate or heat loss rate from the surface of that pipe. If you don't put insulation, what percentage gets condensed? And if you put insulation, what percentage gets condensed? And it was found that maybe yes, the putting insulation should help you because it reduces the heat transfer rate drastically. Now, let's say that pipe is not passing through an open area, but it is passing through, let's say, some closed compartment or a closed building. And in that case, the wind is not flowing freely over that, or it may be assumed that that the air around it is nearly stagnant. So it becomes a case of natural convection or free convection. So this example is given here, a 10 centimeter diameter, 10-meter long, uninsulated, thin steam pipe, surface temperature is 125 degrees Celsius. It passes through a closed room without ventilation. So this has been clearly mentioned, like closed room without ventilation. So you can assume that it is a quiescent media, air. Determine the rate of heat loss if the room air is at 29 degrees Celsius temperature, and if steam flows at a rate of 1000 kg per hour from this pipe, what percentage of it is condensed? Okay, so surface temperature of the pipe is 125, the temperature of the air is 29, length of the pipe is 10 meters, diameter of pipe is 10 centimeter or 0.1 meter, and you want to get the properties of air. So at the mean film temperature, so mean film temperature is 125 plus 29 upon 2, that many degrees Celsius, or if you write it in Kelvin, it should be 350 Kelvin. Now at this temperature, the properties of air are found. So the density should be, so you can solve this example again using the property tables. If you are able to check the things quickly now, you can even do that. So the density of air at this temperature should be around, if you want this in Kelvin, then it would, sorry, if you want it in degrees Celsius, if your table is in given for degrees Celsius, you may be interested in getting this value. In degrees Celsius. So it's 77 degrees Celsius, right? Okay, so at this temperature, so you may use 75 or you may use 80. Okay, and if you have enough time, you can even do the interpolation between 70 and 80. So the density is 1.008 kg per meter cube. The dynamic viscosity is 2.07 into 10 raised to minus 5 kg per meter second. Cp of air is 1010, and the unit is the joule per kg Kelvin, and then the K is 0.029. .029 this is watt per meter Kelvin, right? You know the units of different parameters. Now, when you are dealing with natural convection, this beta, volumetric thermal expansion coefficient, is one of the important parameters. And for air, you can assume it to be like ideal gas, so it will be 1 upon absolute temperature, right? So this should be put as 350 Kelvin, not as 77. So you get beta equal to 2.856 into 10 raised to minus 3 Kelvin inverse. Prandtl number mu Cp by K comes out to be 0.721. For air, generally it is close to 0.7. And then the kinematic viscosity is mu upon rho, so that comes out to be 2.054 into 10 raised to minus 5 meter per second square. Now, Rayleigh number is G beta Ts minus Ta into the characteristic dimension, right? So characteristic dimension is cube of, is the diameter in this case. Okay. We did not discuss about the horizontal cylinder, but the correlation for that. So long horizontal cylinder. Okay, the free convection or natural convection over that. So this is a long horizontal cylinder. The boundary layer over that is shown, and what is going to happen is that as the air or the fluid gets heated up, it rises up and comes out in the form of a plume. And for this kind of geometry, you can have the Nusselt number as a function of Rayleigh number. So C into Rayleigh number raised to n. And for different ranges of Rayleigh number, you can have different values of C and n. Or there is a more common correlation or more general correlation here, again recommended by Churchill and Chu. And this correlation is used in our example. And we have to just check that Rayleigh number is less than 10 raised to 12. So let's go back to the example. So you find out Rayleigh number G beta Ts minus Ta d cube. D is the diameter of the pipe, which is the characteristic dimension here. Prandtl number and this nu square. So you are getting it 4.597 into 10 raised to 6. So this is the Rayleigh number, and you see that it is less than 10 raised to 12. So you will be able to use that Churchill and Chu correlation, and the area of the pipe, this 10 meter long, this is cross sectional area, pi by 4 d square, and Nusselt number as function of Rayleigh number and Prandtl number is shown here. With this correlation, you will be able to get the value of Nusselt number, and that comes out to be 22.541. So your H is Nu K by D. So it comes out to be 6.532 watt per meter square Kelvin, right? In previous example also, the solved example in the book, we could see that it was around 7. So it's not even, air is already a poor media for heat transfer, and here you are talking about a mode which is also again very ineffective, the natural convection heat convection mode. So in the temperature difference are also not very high, so that will not generate very high velocities of the fluid. So H value is low. Now your latent heat in this case at 125 degrees Celsius. So you're assuming that that steam is also at 125, and the only conversion which is happening is the phase change. No like desuperheating or means it is in saturated state, dry saturated, and it's becoming saturated liquid. So in that case, this is the latent heat, and now your Q is equal to H into A into delta T, right? So A is pi dl and H is already found. Temperature difference is also known, 125 minus 29. So the heat transfer rate or heat loss rate is coming out to be 1.97 kilowatt. So how much steam is getting condensed? That's Q upon the latent heat of vaporization. So it's around 3.2 kg per hour. While the flow rate of the steam is given, right here, there is some calculation shown, but actually it is given. So it is around 1000 kg per hour. So out of that, around 3% of that 3.2 kg per hour is getting converted into liquid, right? That is a loss which is happening. So here you will find that for a given temperature difference and given temperature difference and a given surface area, the heat loss is not that high. So one may omit, may not go for insulation in this case because H is already low. You are not going to get much or save much by adding insulation. Okay. So this is an example on the natural convection over a long horizontal cylinder. Now there is another example on a plate, vertical plate and a horizontal plate. So we have not talked about any orientation other than vertical plate. So let's talk about that and then we'll go back to the example. Yeah. So if the orientation is a bit different from that vertical orientation, you can see here that the plate is inclined. Generally, along with the correlation, the criteria for the correlation is also given. But then I think one should be able to remember the critical Reynolds number. There are not many critical Reynolds number, right? So some basic knowledge of when you do enough practice, you don't have to remember actually. It happens naturally, right? And many times people may expect that you know that, right? If you appear for an interview and they may tell that what is the relay number, critical relay number for a particular or a critical Reynolds number for a particular case, right? So if you have done enough practice, it should not be difficult to remember that. I don't think there are many. That will not be even in that could be only 5-6 numbers that you will naturally remember. Okay, so that numbers may be important to be able to distinguish between different modes or flow regimes also, right? So when you are talking about external flow, you should immediately be able to tell that if it is 5 into 10 raised to 5, then there will be transition from laminar to turbulent flow. If it is internal flow, then the number is quite different. It is around 2,300 to 3,000. And at 10,000 you are very confident that it has become turbulent flow, right? So for a cylinder it is a bit different from a horizontal plate, right? So some of these numbers I think you will naturally remember, and so it should not be a much difficult case, though many times they may be given along with the correlations. Okay. Yeah. So I will not stress upon memorizing something, but some of the things like naturally happens when you do the required practice. When you get involved into something, right? People don't have to tell you that you remember this, right? It is naturally gathered by your mind and it is kept safely, and it can be easily recalled. So that's the way I look at the things. So we were talking about this inclinations other than 90 degrees. So if the plate is inclined with the vertical at an angle theta, now this plate, what is shown here, it is not actually heated plate, right? This is a cold plate. So the temperature Ts should be less than the temperature of the fluid. In that case, the fluid is moving downward, as you can see, and on the other side the flow pattern will be a bit different, right? These things are kind of intuitive. You can even like realize that yes, it should happen this way, the movement and the escape of the fluid, right? Now if it is again a cold plate and like the bottom surface is cold only, in that case the air comes in contact with that and moves down, right? So this is the type of pattern that you may find. Then if it is a hot plate, inclined plate, and bottom surface is hot, then this is what you might expect, right? Now here for the bottom hot surface, you may use the correlation for a vertical plate also, given that this theta is not too small. Now by small it is up to 60 degrees. So if it is up to 60 degrees, the equation for the vertical plate may itself be used with just a modification that you multiply cos theta to that, right? So if it is theta equal to 30 degrees, you just multiply cos 30 degrees in that equation and you get the Nusselt number. But the correlation for the other side should be different because the pattern that is generated is different. And again, a horizontal plate with like top surface is hot. So this is the kind of pattern of flow of air that might get generated. And so when you choose a correlation, you should be choosing the right correlation for the given case, right? Now, if you are talking about a horizontal surface, then you can use the given correlation, but your characteristic length is AS upon P, right? The surface area upon the perimeter on one side. So this is the characteristic length that you have to take. So for a horizontal plate, you cannot take the length of the plate as your characteristic length. It will be the area of that plate divided by the perimeter of that plate, right? And here again some more cases shown. So you should study these cases and you should be able to show this type of diagram, right? And it is intuitive how the movement of the fluid will occur when it comes in contact with a particular surface, cold or hot, and whether it is on the upper side or it is on the lower side. Right? So here this plate upper surface is cold, so as the fluid comes in contact with that, like it is restricted by the presence of the plate, so it has to move sidewards and then only it can escape away from the plate. While in this case the bottom surface is cold, so it can immediately move down and escape away from the surface. This is top surface of the plate being hot, and this is again bottom surface of the plate being hot. So when the air tries to move up, there is a restriction there. So it has to move sideward and then only it will be able to escape. So you should be able to draw this kind of pattern of movement of the fluid in relation to the plate. Okay, and then the correlations like for different cases, upper surface hot or lower surface cold, right? Similar correlation should be there. It does just the criteria is this is up to 10:7, this is up to 10:11. Okay, uh, so in such cases generally this criteria will also be given, right? Because this is the regime which are defined by the researcher, right? Like you told that for a vertical plate it is 10⁹ so that is most important. Other things are perhaps less important. Other ranges are perhaps less important. So then for if your Rayleigh number is high, then this is the correlation you will use. And for the opposite case, that is lower surface of hot plate and upper surface of cold plate, the correlation is given by this equation 9.32. So let's go back to the example where we are talking about two different orientations of a cold surface, right? Now it is presented as a air conditioning device. Let's read this. The surface temperature of a square-shaped radiant cooling panel with 25 meter square area is 25 degrees Celsius. It can be installed horizontally. Now here it is written 25, but it's taken actually 20. 25 may be very high. It can be installed horizontally on ceiling or vertically on a wall. Find natural convective heat transfer coefficient for both configurations. Also find radiative heat transfer rate from panel if ambient is at 20 degree Celsius. Now ambient is at not at 20, ambient is at 30. That is, the room is at 30 and the plate is at 20. It's a like a big plate which is at 25. Actually, this is one of the novel schemes of air conditioning where you don't have the indoor coil in case of a split AC, but you have a big plate which is maintained at a low temperature. So because of this, by natural convection and also by radiation, the area is cooled, and the people are also cooled by having heat exchange, or rather heat taken away from the body of people. So this is called radiant cooling. So you have a big plate here. It can be horizontal or it can be vertical, and the plate is at 20. If the room air is at 30, what will be the heat transfer rate? That is what is asked, is to be found here. And we'll focus mainly upon the natural convective heat transfer rate rather than the radiative part. So this temperature of the radiant cooling panel is 20. That of the ambient is 30, and then area is 25 meters square, and the length of the plate, or the height when you keep it vertical, it's actually square, so it is 5 meters by 5 meter. When you put it in vertical fashion, the height becomes 5 meter. Okay. And in case of horizontal plate, its area upon length, right? Perimeter, area upon perimeter. The characteristic length is area upon perimeter. So perimeter is 4 times the length. So in case of horizontal plate, the characteristic length is not 5 meters, but it is 1/4 of that, and that is 1.25 meter. Okay, so it's 25 upon 20, so it's 1.25. So characteristic length is quite different in horizontal plate, for horizontal plate, as compared to the vertical plate. Now air properties may be found at the average mean film temperature. So it's 25, 20 and 30, average of that. Beta is 1 upon T, the absolute temperature like 273.15 plus 25, inverse of that. So that should be this 3.354 into 10 to minus 3. Then the dynamic viscosity, density, and kinematic viscosity, Prandtl number mu Cp by K again comes out very close to 0.7, and Rayleigh number as per the formula G beta delta T, cube of length divided by nu square into Prandtl number. So it's coming out to be 1.234 into 10 raised to 11. Okay, so as per this, if it is, this is up to 10 raised to 11 actually, right? 10 raised to 7 to 11, but you are not very much away from 10 raised to 11, so you may still use that correlation, right? It is 1.2 into 10 raised to 11. So still that correlation is used, and this is the correlation, and you find the Nusselt number comes out to be 564. From that you get the heat transfer coefficient for, this is for vertical, I'm sorry. So this is for vertical plate, right? So the correlation for vertical plate is to be used, not this one. So correlation for the vertical plate is to be used. So this correlation, so here if it is 9.26, if it is great, like up, it's applicable up to, it is quite general, right? So even more than 10 raised to 11, this can be used, while this is recommended up to 10 raised to 9, right? So for laminar up to 10 raised to 9, this is to be used. If it is This is to be used for more accuracy up to 10⁹. This one is more general, can be used even for 10⁹ and like even more than 10⁻11, right? 10⁻11 is the is your criteria, okay, for the flow becoming turbulent, right? Okay, so that correlation is used, and you have H value very small, okay, just 3, around 3. This is watt per meter square Kelvin, right? This is watt per meter square Kelvin, just around 3. So what will be the heat transfer rate for the horizontal configuration of the plate if it is put on a ceiling horizontal fashion? It's just 0.717 kilowatt. It's just 0.717 kilowatt. So that's a very small thing for a vertical. I'm sorry. This is vertical, put as a, say, in contact with a vertical wall, not on ceiling. On ceiling, it will be horizontal configuration. So horizontal configuration, again, you find the Rayleigh number. Only difference is that this value of L, which is 1/4 of the height, right? 1.25 meter. So the Rayleigh number is coming out to be 1. So here it will be smaller, 1.9 into 10⁹ and the correlation that you will use is for the horizontal cold plate. So this is 0.15 Rayleigh number is to 1/3. So it comes out to be 187 or so. H value again is small, but higher than this value of H as compared to the vertical plate. So around 3.8, and your heat transfer rate would be 949 watts. So that was just 717 watt here, and here it is a bit higher. So it may be recommended to keep it horizontal rather than vertical, right? This is a conclusion that you can draw from this example. Okay, so we did 2 examples on this natural convection. One was for a long cylinder and the other one was for a flat plate which may be kept in vertical fashion or in horizontal plate fashion, and we compared it. It is a cold plate, right? So air will move down actually, whether it is kept vertical or it is kept horizontal, and it is found that air means it would be better to keep it horizontal. It provides you higher heat transfer coefficient. So it is if you keep it horizontal, the heat transfer phenomena is more effective. So it's like this, right? Of course, a vertical one, but so it will be something similar to what you see on the left hand side, but for a vertical plate, air will move down, right? So you're talking about this configuration versus this configuration, right hand side. Okay, if it is kept horizontal and the bottom surface is cold, so it's going to move down. So it seems natural that you can expect that this is more effective because air can escape more easily, right? So it should provide you higher heat transfer coefficient, but still it's not very high. Okay. So basically the natural convective heat transfer phenomena is uh, very means the effectiveness is very low, or if you don't want the heat transfer, it is something which is preferred, and if you want heat transfer, then it is a very poor mode unless the temperature differences are very high. Okay, in this example, the temperature difference was just 10 degrees. So that was a very small temperature difference. So it not just reduces the value of delta T, but also reduces the value of heat transfer coefficient because it is affected by the buoyancy force which is generated by the temperature difference. So this brings us to the end of the discussion on natural convection also, and end of my portion in the heat transfer subject, that is mainly convective heat transfer. including boiling and condensation and heat exchangers.